We will have high standards here, and we will fulfill those standards.
Brian Kelly arrived in Baton Rouge and wasted no time setting the expectations for his new football program. One with rich tradition and lofty goals, but looking to reestablish itself after 2 straight disappointing seasons. And after just 1 game, it certainly felt like LSU may be in for another rough year. Even members of the media seemed to be doubting Kelly's ability to bring the Tigers back to glory. Then the pressure grew after a 40-13 drubbing at the hands of Tennessee in Baton Rouge. But as the saying goes, it's not how you start, but rather how you finish. The Bayou Bengals rattled off 5 big wins since, mauling rival after rival in the process before getting stunned in College Station. But even after that, they still have the chance to be kings of the conference in Brian Kelly's first season. But standing in their way, college football's final boss, the Georgia Bulldogs. A ferocious pack of dogs that has torn through its challengers all season long. Top 10 in total defense and total offense, not a weakness in sight. And in their line of vision, a second consecutive national championship, which no team has accomplished since the playoff era began in 2014. But this just might be the group to do it.
I've been proud of what our guys have done, but I'm always looking for our guys to play their best, and our best game is ahead of us.
The Dogs seek a dynasty. The Tigers are here to take down Goliath. It's all bite versus all fight. A championship is on the line in Atlanta, and the college football world will be watching on CBS.
And welcome back to Cover 3's SEC Game of the Week pregame watch party presented by Modelo. Brewed for full-time fans, brewed for those with a fighting spirit. We are counting down to LSU and Georgia, the SEC Championship game in Atlanta. That's Bud Elliott. I'm Chip Patterson. Thanks to all of you that are watching along on YouTube, on Twitter. As we promised, we have a special guest for another SEC Game of the Week pregame watch party. And since it's the SEC Championship, Bud, you know we had to deliver. We had to call on an All-American cornerback for LSU. We had to call on a Thorpe Award winner as the nation's top defensive back, a Bednarik Award winner as the nation's top defensive player, a first-round top 5 pick in the NFL draft, where he has proceeded to be a multi-time All-Pro and 8-time Pro Bowl selection. He is also a friend of the family of sorts, as one half of the All Things Covered podcast here at the CBS Sports Network, along with Bryant McFadden. Please welcome to the Cover 3 SEC Game of the Week pregame watch party, Minnesota Vikings cornerback, Patrick Peterson. Hey!
How you guys doing, man?
Doing all right, Pat.
What's going on, Pat? That was quite the intro. I love that intro. That sounds pretty good.
Listen, I got to make sure that the people know we got some VIP here. And I mean, honestly, I'm excited. You know, it's like Cover 3, all things covered, you know, just like a good little mashup that we got right now. First of all, how are you feeling as we are counting down to LSU against Georgia? What are the vibes like as you're thinking about your Tigers right now?
Man, I'm feeling pretty good about the Tigers. Obviously having a disappointing loss last week in College Station. Kind of shook up everything a little bit. You know, thought this game would mean a little bit more. Obviously, you know, having an opportunity to play in the SEC Championship means a lot in itself. But, you know, we had bigger aspirations, you know, for playing for the college football championship. So, obviously, with that disappointment last week, this game is have a little bit different ramifications. But the guys look good, man. I think, you know, I thought they fought against the odds all year long, and they end up now they are in the position where, you know, where they thought they can be all along, and those guys just hung in there and stuck it out. And I'm happy to see the job that Chip was able to do, and Brian, Coach Kelly in his first year there with the Tigers, and can't wait to see what the future holds for him.
Pat, what are some of the changes you've seen Brian Kelly make to that program? Obviously, like we knew a lot about him as a guy that, you know, wins a whole lot at Notre Dame. But I'm sure you've been able to visit down there. What have you seen as far as changes he's made that have impacted this team so much?
Just being aggressive, you know, having a quarterback that he can trust, in year one. No matter what the situation is, no matter what the circumstances are, the moment's not too big for him. So he has a guy that he can trust down in, and down out, for the most part. And just we always have great athletes there, in Louisiana and at LSU. That's never a question. But now he's just in. I guess the playing field is a little bit even now for him, having an opportunity to go get some of these top-notch recruits year in and year out, able to compete with the Alabamas and the Georgias and the Tennessees of the world.
Do you think that he was able to instill a little bit of like a chip on their shoulder? I mean, this LSU team was picked 5th in the division, that same division that they just went and won. Do you think that what's been the attitude inside that locker room of this team where a lot of players transferring in, a lot of players transferring out, sort of flipping over the roster? What's helped that group be aggressive in their execution?
Man, it just starts with the coaching staff. First and foremost, getting the guys to believe in the system, getting guys to believe in, what they're bringing to the table. And you can just tell from the outside looking in that those guys are trusting the process and also believing, in the process and what the coaches are telling them and how they're getting them prepared to play. And it's always wonderful to see, your alma mater, continue to carry on the tradition of, playing fast on the defensive side of the ball, guys playing with relentless effort, no matter what the score is, so you can just tell that those guys, are still carrying some of the traits, although it is a different coaching staff, some of the traits that was there inherited, when I was there back in 2008 through 2010. So it's a remarkable thing to see that those guys are still showing that guts and that resilient effort.
Pat, you mentioned the more even playing field for Brian Kelly. Obviously, LSU, you can just recruit better than you can at Notre Dame. I want to take you back to your recruitment because for a long time, schools in the state of Florida had gone to Louisiana, right, and pulled guys like Warwick Dunn and McGrew and studs out of there. And you were one of the first real national recruits as kind of internet recruiting took off. I mean, I grew up covering knowing you as Patrick Johnson, right? Back in the day. Take us through that process that brought you to LSU. I mean, that was a pretty major upset back in the day, if I recall.
Yeah, it really was. And what got me to LSU, I was, heavily recruited by everybody in the, in the world. So when it came down in like the USC, Florida State, Miami, Florida, and like LSU was kind of like late in the mixture. Like I didn't go there until like October when they played Auburn. I remember it vividly. Coach Earl Lane got in contact with my dad and they invited me to come out official visit to the Auburn LSU game. The Demetrius Byrd yeah. So I got invited to come out to that game. I'm like, damn, this is kind of dope. And everybody in the secondary was seniors, so I knew it would be a kind of a clean slate for me to go there and do something special. And also, they never had a Jim Thorpe Award winner. All the other schools, had the things that I wanted to achieve, but I wanted to be a trendsetter. So going back to the schools that I had, USC, Pete Carroll, I think he was just about to leave, and they was about to go on sanctions. Mm-hmm. Florida State had just got into some trouble with the guys. I can't remember what it was, but you remember the scandal came out with a bunch of guys cheating, supposedly cheating on the
music class.
Then you had Miami really didn't like the way the program was going because I grew up a Miami fan. I just felt like it wasn't the same. It didn't have that same pop. And just LSU kind of like fell in my lap, man. Coming off a national championship game, never really had them on my radar. Went to that game against Auburn, and honestly, I didn't commit there. I didn't tell them I was coming there until like a week. After they didn't know I was coming there until I committed to them at the All-American game. So that's how close it was, and I really wasn't sure on which route I was going to go.
You were the DBU. Kind of like starts with you being a foundational piece of that. How much pride do you take in that? And also, like looking at this year's team, do you see that legacy and that tradition being upheld by this group as well?
Man, just going back to my recruit process, like I said, I wanted to be a trendsetter. I wanted to go somewhere to where I can start something, start a tradition. And like I said, USC already had that. Miami had that. Florida State had that. Florida had that. You know, and like I said, and by me going to LSU, everybody was leaving. So it was a great opportunity for me to go there and fulfill my dreams and my, you know, aspirations, how I saw, you know, my college career going. And it was just to see it all come into fruition. It's just remarkable. You know, I'm happy that, you know, not only that I was able to go there and accomplish my goal, but also the great coaching staffs that came through there to go get athletes like myself that's able to keep the tradition going, like the Tyron Matthews, the Mo Claibornes, the Grants, I mean, I can continue the Jalen Mills. I can continue to go down the list, you know. So it's a credit to really those guys for trying to continue that DBU name going. You know, I'm just happy that I was able to start something at a major university that can last, you know, quite honestly, a very long time.
Pat, if this game was being played in 2024 as opposed to 2022, LSU, if they won the SEC, would be in the college ball playoff and have a decent chance to host a home playoff game, right? Is that something, if you could take us back to your days as a player, is that something that would interest you in having a 12-team playoff and having a chance to play your way in?
Yeah, I think there will be eventually, just the way college football is going, I think there will eventually be some type of expansion. I don't know if it'll be, you know, 12 games out of the gate, but I think eventually it will get there. Just because like now you're just seeing so many different, you know, they say upsets, you know, kind of, it's a lot of shakeups now. You know, now it's going to be a lot of one-loss teams that possibly might not make the playoffs, you know, so now they want to find ways to not let things like this continue to happen, because every year there's always a team that have the criteria but don't end up making the Final Four, you know. So I think there will be an expansion. I wish it was something like this when I was in school, you know, especially my last year in school. I thought we had 2010. I thought we had a really, really good season. Unfortunately, you know, we had no playoff at that time, so it was no way of trying to play your way into anything. It was either because you lost. I mean, it's still that way to this day, but you know, you lose a game and you pretty much can chalk it up.
What is it about?
You had to play Cam at Auburn, obviously. You know,
that's the game. That's the one game that we lost. Yeah, 17. I think it was like 24-17, if I'm not mistaken.
What is it about when, you know, LSU and Georgia play each other that sort of brings? I mean, obviously a championship is on the line today, but what is it about that brings out that sort of championship atmosphere? You had 2 games against Georgia, right?
Yes.
Yeah. What is it about LSU and Georgia as that always seems to bring about the big event, you know, the title fight kind of vibe?
Because I think, for one, we rarely get the opportunity to play against each other in the regular season. I believe it's like every 2 years or something like that. And then when we do play each other, it's typically in the SEC championship, you know, for all the marbles. So, and those guys, I mean, every team in the SEC, especially when you have quality coaches, you know, kind of have the same identity. You know, you want to be tough. You got speed everywhere. You got a quality play at quarterback. So if you look across those guys, you're like, those guys look just like us. You know what I mean? So they have just the same amount of talent that we have. So therefore, we got to be on our P's and Q's, and that's where that extra energy comes from, that different type of passion, because we understand that any small moment or any little detail that goes unturned can cost us a game.
He is Minnesota Vikings cornerback Patrick Peterson. Home game tomorrow. New York Jets coming to town. So we got the Christmas tree in the background. All right, before we let you go, Patrick, official predictions. What do you think your Tigers are going to be able to do against the Bulldogs today in the SEC Championship?
Man, we're going to shock the world. Of course, I'm going with my Tigers. There ain't no other way. I'm gonna go 31. I'm gonna go 31-34 Tigers.
31-34 LSU shocking the world with the upset. Again, if you want more of Patrick Peterson, in addition to, you know, watching him on Sundays, you can always tune in the All Things Covered podcast with Patrick and our friend Bryant McFadden. Patrick, Thank you very much, my friend.
All right, Chip and Bud, you guys take care. And like Coach O will always say, go Tigers.
See you, Pat.
Awesome stuff from Patrick. All right, let's welcome back into the conversation Tom Fornelli as we continue to count down to the SEC championship game between LSU and Georgia here on Cover 3's SEC Game of the Week pregame watch party presented by Modelo, brewed for full-time fans, brewed for those with a fighting spirit. Tom, what do you make of what's happening in Dallas right now?
It's got me scared. It's got me scared that I'm never going to be able to do another college football playoff reaction show if things keep going the way that they're going. I'm terrified.
What do we have for a score right now? For those of us who have to be broadcasting from a phone.
21-17.
21-17. Yeah, Kansas State.
Yeah, TCU.
I will say,
they're in if it's close, right?
Yes. Yeah. And also, I was doing the HQ live betting show at halftime of this game, and I took TCU in the second half because of just how good TCU's been in the second half all season. And then the fact that Malik Knowles, last we saw him, was on the sideline with a towel over his head in tears. And he's been the only player on the Kansas State offense to really do anything in the first half. So I still think TCU's got a pretty good chance to win this game, but we'll see.
Yeah, a lot of time left, 2:26 left in the third quarter. The TCU
Bang.
Touchdown?
No, but a big play to Quentin Johnston just now.
All right.
Let's go.
No
code.
Have our thoughts shifted at all as we've continued to get a little bit closer to kickoff here with Alabama? With Alabama on the brain. LSU and Georgia. As we continue to get set for the SEC championship game. Matchup wise, anything that you're looking for as we look ahead to this 4 p.m. Eastern time kickoff?
I'm firmly on the idea that Georgia's going to blow LSU out, and I hope Pat's not here listening to what I'm saying anymore. But I just think that Georgia is the much better team. But the one area where I think if LSU's going to have a shot to beat Georgia in this game, or at least keep it close and give itself a shot, is we saw when Georgia played Tennessee, Georgia completely took the big play away from Tennessee, smothered the receivers, took the passing attack away. But Tennessee's passing attack, they have very good receivers. And I don't mean this to be disrespectful, but a lot of what they do is scheme. They scheme their guys open. LSU schemes guys open too, but LSU, the difference between their receivers, the guys like Kayshon Boutte and the guys Tennessee have, are they have dudes who can get open on their own against top corners, which is what Georgia has. So if LSU's receivers are able to create separation for themselves, get themselves open and make big plays, regardless of the scheme, that's what LSU can do to get in this game and give itself a chance. Will they be able to? I don't know. I can't wait to watch Keely Ringo versus Boutte. I think that's going to be a very fun matchup, but I think they've got a shot, just not a very good one.
I would echo Tom there. Also, shout out to Pat Pete for picking off Josh Allen in that game a couple weeks ago. Probably the best NFL game regular season that I've ever watched. Actually won in my fantasy league that week because my opponent had Josh Allen, and throwing that pick was that nice -2 points, and that was the winning margin. So, Pat Pete, if you are still watching, appreciate it. There are so many good players on this field this week for LSU and Georgia, but I actually want to focus on kind of a weakness v. weakness element. And this is something that somebody had alerted me to on Twitter. And that was that Georgia does not necessarily set the edge all that well in their run defense. And it's something that, because they've had a number of injuries, that they have struggled with this a little bit. It's kind of one of the reasons why I think Michigan may, I want to use the word may, so I don't get, old takes exposed here, may have a shot against Georgia if they were to meet for the title. But the thing is that LSU, while they had some sort of preconceived weaknesses entering the year, corner maybe, which I think has proven to be false. I think LSU's corners are actually pretty good, especially because they've stayed healthy. Offensive tackle is not necessarily a consistent strength game to game. They've had a lot of variance in terms of the quality of their tackle play for the Tigers. And so I'm kind of curious, will Georgia be able to set the edge better, or will LSU's young tackles step up? If LSU is going to hang around in this game, they have got to be able to run the football off tackle, or at least make Georgia overcommit to it with personnel so they can create some of those explosives downfield. LSU with Jaden Daniels is not a great rhythm passing team, and if Georgia can sit in too high and stop the run, it's night termite, right? Like, well, if we were doing a live show, we'd be able to recap it in the third quarter. So they've got to be able to run and make Georgia play this thing with 8.
So what about the other side of this, where you've got an LSU defense that has been very good this season and does have like great talent. Georgia's offensive line has been strong as well, but the offensive identity sometimes shift from game to game. In the big games, Stetson Bennett, Tom always likes to say, they like to remind you that, they do have a pretty good offense. They try to dial up a couple haymakers down the field, but it is an offense that against Kentucky for times kind of turtled up just a little bit. Do you think that LSU is going to be able to stop the run for Georgia and maybe make life a little bit tough on Bennett?
That is another key, because if you look at this LSU defense, it's something we've talked about. Like, on a per play basis, they have been much better against the pass, or at least limiting the pass, than they have been against the run. And when it comes to facing Georgia, a team that can pass, though it's not really trying to, and will sometimes just look to lean on its run game and bludgeon you and smother you to death, if the Tigers aren't stopping this run game, they have no prayer of winning this game, because Georgia's more than happy to just hand off 75 times today if that's all it takes to get this win. So that is what we're going to need to see, whether that LSU front can not even be disruptive, but just maintain their gaps. Don't give up the big plays. Make Georgia go kind of 3 yards, 4 yards at a time, and limit them to that, to at least put them in situations on third down where it's like, okay, Stetson, do something. And then you hope Stetson makes a mistake, or he can't, you take away the middle of the field and force Stetson to go outside the hash marks and see if he can beat you there. If they can do that, kind of like I was saying with receivers, they have a chance. But again, I'm not very optimistic about their chance.
So if it seems like we're trying to find all the ways that LSU can win, it's because that's a more exciting way to do a pregame show when you have a 17-point spread in a conference title game.
Yes.
Right? Like, nobody wants to hear us forecast the ways that Georgia can win by 5 scores, which there are many, right? But one of the ways that the game can be kept close, Georgia sneakily this year has been a poor team in the low red zone, particularly in goal-to-go situations. If you look at Georgia up front, I mean, they look like they're a really good offensive line. They have powerful backs who squat 1,000 pounds, et cetera, but they do not seem to do a very good job in the low red zone. I have kind of a pet theory here in that Georgia does not really use big splits, and Bennett is not that tall. So I think it impacts some of his vision with these passing lanes, especially as teams just kind of crowd the middle there and try to take away the run. Mississippi State had success against Georgia in the low red zone and goal-to-go situations. Kentucky did as well. If LSU is going to win this ballgame, it almost certainly is going to come with some really good success down there, maybe a goal line stand or two, force a couple short field goals, and then find a way to win it. Like, that is something that has been a weakness for Georgia, and we'll have to see. If Georgia's converting down there, it's probably not going to happen for the Tigers.
Is Georgia playing for the number 1 seed, or do you think that is locked up at this point?
It's locked up if they win. I don't think it's between them and Michigan, and I don't know what Michigan can do to Purdue suddenly convince the committee that it's the number 1 seed if they haven't already put them there. So I would feel like Georgia's got the better win here. So as long as they win this game, they are the number 1 seed. If they lose, then yeah, they're going to fall, assuming Michigan wins.
Same thing. No style points needed. Georgia wins by any margin. Michigan, even if they put up another 49-3, you're not going to slot the Wolverines ahead of the Bulldogs.
I think because the perceived weakness of the Big Ten West, I'm not really sure how much the committee would weight a massive Michigan win as long as Georgia's result is a win of any margin. So I think I agree with Tom. A Georgia win will see Georgia playing as the number 1 seed in the Georgia Dome.
Yeah, in Atlanta. Just start the year with a throttling of Oregon. They're going to play in the SEC championship. They're probably going to play in the semifinal. It's a Georgia year right now for in the year of the dog.
What? Here, let's go off script for a second here. Like, what if instead of having the number 1 seed pick the venue, what if the number 1 seed could pick the 3 or 4 seed? If you're Georgia and you get the 1 seed, and assuming TCU holds on and it's TCU at 3, Ohio State at 4, who would you rather face in the semifinal?
TCU.
Yeah. Ohio State has multiple first-round picks at receiver. They have not looked great, but there is a certain gear that I think it's a theoretical gear because they have not shown it all the time this year, although they have won every game but won by double digits. There is a gear that you have to worry about if you're Kirby Smart that Ohio State might be able to shift into with a month to prep, and that gear has got to scare you because Ohio State would be by far the best passing game you've seen all season.
What are you thinking?
Oh, Max Duggan just threw a pick in the end zone. Terrible throw.
Gotta be kidding me.
Wow.
Underthrew. There was a fade to Johnston, and he underthrew it by a lot.
Was it first down or something too?
No, it's third and
or it's third and set. Yeah, it was third
yeah.
down, but just terrible throw. Anyways,
and I mean, look, the wagon has lost a wheel. Our pets' heads are falling off. It's not good.
Are you giving up on the wagon?
I'm not giving up,
Chip.
but I'm saying we need something with the wagon.
How's the other wagon doing? Is Ohio beating Toledo?
No, they're down 10.
Yeah. 17-7 Toledo.
It has been a very ugly football game. We did this on HQ2 live betting. I said I don't care what the total is, take the under. We are 87 plays into this game, and there have been 3 explosive plays, and I haven't seen one since. So
Finn is playing, but he doesn't look great.
Correct.
Okay, yeah, that's about how we thought this might go.
Yeah, it is. It's not a lot of efficiency going on there. Elsewhere, of course, we've got Coastal Carolina and Troy, and the rest of the afternoon window includes UCF, Tulane, and Boise, Fresno. What other games have you had late thoughts on, or what other things are you going to be keeping an eye on here in the afternoon?
Money came in on Purdue, interestingly, and then knocked that spread down to 15.5. But for a while, it looked like it would threaten 17. Not really involved there, but that was interesting that some people of influence. I was watching my odds screen and it lit up the max bet size went up to 40K per bet, and then all of a sudden immediately Purdue started taking some money. So to me, that kind of signals maybe some professional groups wanting to back Purdue at anything over 14.5. So that was interesting. I don't necessarily agree, and heck, like they don't win every single bet they make, but that was it was interesting to see the screen light up very quickly after the limits were raised up.
Sharps are on 40% of the time.
That's right. Actually, probably more often than that if you think about like they're having to wait until Saturday to get their bets in. Yeah.
What happens? Go ahead, Tom.
I was going to say, I had no interest in betting that spread until now that it's gotten down to 15.5. I'm kind of thinking I might take Michigan before kickoff.
All right, so if TCU loses here, is TCU going to remain in the top 4?
Yes, unless Kansas State reels off 3 touchdowns here in the last 10 minutes.
Bud, you agree?
Yeah, like 28-17, I think they're fine, right? 27-17, fine. 34-17 is sort of that danger zone, it feels like.
Yeah, like we discussed this on We discussed this on the reaction show Friday night. Is this the time where if you're TCU, you start slowing the tempo down, even though you're still behind, just to make sure?
Just to keep it aesthetically pleasing to be able to make it. So if the Frogs lose, do you think they get jumped by Ohio State? So it's like Georgia, TCU, and then we get a Michigan-Ohio State rematch in the other semifinal.
Of course. Imagine the ratings for that game.
Do you want the rematch there, or do you want it in the title game?
Oh, the title game's going to do ratings no matter what. But if you put it in the semi, you're going to get like 30 million viewers.
And Fiesta will be second. They'll throw the peach in the afternoon slot, and it'll be New Year's Eve, 8 p.m. Eastern time kickoff, Ohio State against Michigan from the Fiesta Bowl.
Mm-hmm.
That would do some numbers. Yeah.
That would do a whole lot of numbers. All right, so we've laid it all out. LSU, you know exactly what you need to do to be able to get it in. Keep this thing close and give yourself a shot. That is at 4 p.m. Eastern time. You can watch number 1 Georgia and number 14 LSU, the SEC championship game on CBS. You can stream it on Paramount Plus. And we'd like to thank all of you, whether you're watching on Twitter, whether you're watching on YouTube, for hanging out with us for the Cover 3 SEC Game of the Week pregame watch party presented by Modelo. brewed for full-time fans, brewed for those with a fighting spirit. You can follow him on Twitter at BudElliott3. You can follow him at Tom Fernelli. You can follow me at Chip_Patterson. Gentlemen, thank you very much.
Thank you.